Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Healthy Carnivore. I'm just putting away a body soap that I was using to make my thumbnail. Isn't that pretty? It just turns out so nice. And this is body soap. So I'm going to go over that recipe today. I had somebody ask me to share my video on it, and I was like, I don't know if I have one. And then I went looking, and I have a lot of videos out there, and I could not find one. I knew I'd done shampoo, I knew I'd done lotion, chapstick, the lip gloss that I'm now making, candles, but I was like, I don't know that I did do one. So I thought, well, I'm off today. Why not? So, a little bit about myself is I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for over 22 years, and I did keto since 1991 up till 2019, and then I transitioned over to carnivore. So I did 28 years of keto. 26 of those were clean keto. Did wonderful. The last 2 years, I really wrecked my stomach, wrecked my system, my mitochondria, the whole nine yards, because I started eating and implementing a lot of the recipes um, that had like the maltodextrin, even like almond flour just tears me up. But before that, when I stayed away from those things, I did so good. So I wish I would have never done it. And as always, you trust that this is keto and you just go by the bar and you eat it. And I didn't really look at the ingredients, even though that's been my whole life of seeing what was inside stuff. And I just trusted them, and found out you cannot trust any food makers because they're all out to make money and don't care who they hurt in the way. So that led me to carnivore because I needed to heal. And then I eat lion. So I think ketogenic eating where you're in ketosis is absolutely key. I do think for myself, lion diet is what I do to feel my best. I have my best energy, best sleep, hormones are better. Um, Able to maintain muscle. And actually, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I do 80/20 fat to protein ratio, and I'm putting on muscle a lot easier than I was when I was doing it the other way around. I was doing higher protein and lower fat ratio. Now, there are days where not very many, there are occasional days where I don't eat as high of fat, but it's almost, I mean, if it's 2 days a month, I'd be surprised. And that's mostly going to be because I'm maybe utilizing some 24-hour fasting, 36-hour fasting. Otherwise, I'm eating fat every single day, and I do eat a lot of ribeye fat. So, anyway, I'm going to go over. Good morning. Hi, Ann. I'm going to go over today's recipe. I'm going to give you the large batch because that's what I'm going to make. But you can always half this or quarter it, depending on what you want to do. I will tell you at the end of this how many bars that this will make because I don't necessarily know. I don't pay attention to that. So for a large batch of tallow body soap, you're going to take 32 ounces of tallow, which I've already got right here, and it's already to the form that it's melted. I did that earlier just so it would be ready. You'll want 4.2 ounces of lye. And I know a lot of people are worried about the lye. You just don't do this inside your house, but you can have it poured like this, no big deal. And then 12.16 filtered water, which I've already poured that. And then the 1.5 ounce of essential oils, and that's lavender. I'll promise you, I am not going to measure out the amount of lavender, and I'm going to put it in there until I like the scent and how strong I want it, just the way I do things. So you want to have the tallow in a liquid form, but you want it to be cooled down to about 100 degrees. Same with once you mix this. Look, it has no numbers left on it. Think the lye ate it off? Yes. So anyway, I think you can almost tell where they used to be. Yeah. But anyway, you'll put your water in here, your lye, and then what I used a wooden spoon once. Don't do that. Use something that's got like silicone. And then I go outside. You probably should wear goggles. I do not. and you should just mix that, mix it, mix it, mix it. Now I'm going to let mine sit outside for a few minutes in the cold because that will also get that down to about 100 degrees. Once it's that way, then what I do is I pour them together, and then I use an immersion blender. And this thing is a Braun, and it is the same age as my hand mixer that I use. So probably 32 years because my daughter's 33. I'd say 32 years, right in that range. So they've worked, but of course, that was back before we were buying stuff from other places. So those things don't seem to last so long, which I mean makes sense for them because, like, if your washer goes out every 3 years, you're buying a new washer. The old way, like your old whirlpools that were made here, you could pass them down to another family member, and you don't got that anymore unless you buy like Speed Queen. Speed Queen is still made here, and that's what we have. So once you do all that, you'll mix those together with that immersion blender. Once it gets to about pudding thick, then you can pour it into the molds at that point. So I do have, show you them because you're not going to be able to see when I'm actually pouring them, but I have a cookie sheet that, as you can tell, has only been used for this kind of stuff because you can see where it's gotten on there. But you pour that into the molds. So there's going to be at least 12 there. And then I have like this also that I'm going to put on something so I can put it up in my room when I'm done. So that is what we're going to do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, then these bars take 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So I put them in my prep room where I do my videos and stuff like that. I mean, other than my kitchen, most of the time it's in there. I do those videos in there. I put it in there. It's a nice, cool temperature all the time, year round. It's really cold in there right now. I usually try to keep it, maybe 65 degrees in there. The house is set to 64. That room's always colder. It's on the west side and it's always cooler. So that's what we do. But you'll let it set for, and you can really tell. You pick it up because I leave them in the molds for about 24 hours. Then I take wax paper, put it out on the cookie sheet, and then I flip all of them out onto the cookie sheet. And then I put, date it and say what it is because I'll forget because I have multiple of them in there. I've got some that are shampoo, I've got conditioner bars, and I have body soaps. And so I have to keep those straight. So I always put a piece of tape that says what they are. And then I will put them in there. And at 4 weeks, I start checking them. Most of the time, I live in the Midwest. Most of the time, mine are done at 4 weeks. Now, during the summer, before I put the air conditioner in, it was taking 6 weeks for them to set up. So just so you kind of have an idea. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to get rid of this dreaded scale, the old food scale. The only thing I use it for is uh, making products. So we've got that done. So this is just putting in the water. And like I said, you don't have to be afraid of lye. You just have to respect it. You can pour it in the water. It's not going to bubble until you do it out there. I will be right back. So you're going to look at my beautiful stove that's 2 months old now. And I will be right back. All right. So I am back. Whew. Let me get the door shut. Very windy out there today. And how is your temperatures where you're at? Because I'm not sure where you're coming from, where you're out of. And this is the lye that I use too. and this will do several. I've got an extra one in the prep room. Um, don't really want to get anything on my mouse. And I don't know about you. I was saying today, I didn't used to really care for lavender. It wasn't like my daughter always liked lavender. Even as a baby, she was one that you could put lavender like in her bath water and she loved it. Oh, Minnesota, 12 degrees. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know, Anne, if you know Rachel, I don't know how to pronounce her last name correctly, Gugliok. Anyway, she lives in Minnesota as well, and I think it's northern Minnesota, and it was extremely cold. I mean, there's multiple times. So she's in a Marco Polo group that we do. Myself and Robin Heron have a Marco Polo group. I think she has some Marco Polo groups as well with some other people, and it's just really nice to have these Marco Polo groups. So basically, it's just people like-minded that can get in. And I don't know if you've ever used the Marco Polo app, but you can just go back and forth, video chatting with each other and everybody. And it's kind of nice, keeps you accountable, helps you when you need help, and you can get, you're going to get your answers 24/7. Basically, I mean, if it's 2 in the morning, I'm not going to hear my phone, but basically I do. All right. So, and they got snow yesterday. Ugh. We had quite a bit of snow. We had ice last weekend and then it melted off. 12 degrees. Whew, that is cold. Cat high, 45 here in Northern California. Now, is that cool for you guys? Although I feel like the other night when I was with Russ, I thought he said it was kind of cool, cooler than I expected it to be. But I don't know, like, where Jacksonville is down there. So I don't know where that is. Ah, so Anne says she lives down south in Minnesota. She's southern Minnesota, where the other gal I'm talking about, she lives in northern um, Minnesota. So, anyway, as I was saying about the lavender, is it was not one that I like. If I'd have went to buy something, I was not going to go for something that had lavender scent, like the old like Yankee candles and stuff like that. It was always vanilla or lemon stuff, which I still love. I mean, I make those candles all the time. I have some lemon candles still. I think I have a cinnamon, a pumpkin pie, apple cider, and then the lavender. Although I sold two of the lavender yesterday before I even got them on. Like, I basically put them on the computer and they were on. So I just have three of those left. I make five at a time. I don't make those in big batches, but they do burn for a long period of time. I had like extra, so I made a little short candle, and I lit that yesterday with the lavender scent. And I messed around, did laundry, went and saw a couple old patients that I used to have, a husband and wife, and probably 2.5, 3 hours came back, and it was barely even starting to be down where you could tell it'd been burning. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. So Ann says, I lived in LA for a while from Chicago and couldn't believe when I thought 45 was cold. Yeah, because in Chicago, it's cold. I mean, you get those winds for off the lake. Now we mostly have been up in Chicago because we're Chicago Cubs fans, and so we used to go up for like baseball games and stuff like that quite often. We spent a lot of money in Chicago, and yeah, it was always, the nights were cool, and it was so crazy windy downtown. I could not. I was just like, where does that come from? Like, it was just nuts. Unfortunately, we have not been back there since early 2016. My husband, was it 16? No, it was 15, because he proposed to me at Wrigley Field. Just me and him talking, not up on the scan thingy or that. No, no. Anyway, and there was two shootings up there. I mean, close proximity. Like, I saw the fire come out of the end of the gun, and you're not allowed to carry a gun legally. So I couldn't have any protection for myself. And I just decided I'm not going to spend money in a place where I cannot have my safety. So we just have never went back, and we probably never will go back. And in fact, if I could move out of this great state, if I could get my husband drug out, I'd be gone. So I don't know about moving to Minnesota because it's cold, but definitely someplace else would be nice. Absolutely. Let's see. And Northern California. Kat, how far away from like Jacksonville? Like, is that several hours? Is that just I don't even know. I mean, I hear people talk about like Pensacola and Tampa, Jacksonville. Gosh, where was another one? I worked with a guy that when him and his wife retired, he had saved his money for decades and bought a house down. I believe he was in Pensacola. Nope, Iowa. Oof. Iowa's okay. Good morning, Karen. I grew up in Iowa. I was born in Bunker, Missouri. So if you ever want to go down the rabbit hole, look up Bunker, Missouri and where it's at. And then if you've ever seen the movie Deliverance, you pretty much have found where I was born. But then we moved up to Fort Madison, where my mother had graduated and lived her whole life, and came back to there when it was the flood of 73. So I was two. And so I grew up in Iowa, which I loved Iowa. And it's not that far. Oh, Karen, you were also raised in Iowa. Awesome. Yeah, I really liked Iowa. And I lived in a small town. It was a river town. We had the great big ugly swing span bridge that's still there that is old. I mean, it is old. Um, but it was a good place to grow up. I grew up, we had multiple factories, we had multiple different kinds of industry, lots of different types of restaurants and things like that. We had, um, I'm trying to think, we had Korean restaurants, we had Japanese, Chinese restaurants. What was the Greek? And so we had a really nice, like, if you want to talk about melting pot, that's what we had. We had everything. It was crazy. It was so good to grow up in that and to grow up in the 80s in that because we didn't see a lot of the stuff that people had seen decades before. So it was really nice. And then we were close enough that if we wanted to drive to Burlington, which is a little bit bigger town that had more shopping, we could. We could drive to Iowa City, Mount Pleasant. Des Moines is not that horrible far, Davenport, places like that. Never really did go to the northern parts. Well, I drove through one time when I was taking my husband out west. We drove up and across. Um, but I just, yeah, I really liked growing up over there. I think it was a good place to grow up. Um, so Anne says, "Oh, come here. You'll get used to the weather before." Yeah, and probably being cold um, is a good trade-off for being shot at in your place where you can't shoot back. Well, you're not supposed to shoot back. Let's see. Cat, no, we're not on the coast, so it gets as cold. Oh, as 30 degrees. Oh, wow. Interesting. I would not have thought that. Isn't it funny how we assume like California and Florida, and it's like it's sunny and hot everywhere all the time? It's just like when I tell somebody I'm from Illinois and they're like, oh, Chicago. And I'm like, no, that's a teeny tiny piece when you look at the entire state of Illinois. No, please do not associate me with that. Kat says it snows here about once every 10 years. Oh, well, that's okay. And you don't get ice, I'm guessing, or not much ice. It'd be pretty thin if you got too much. So, Karen, Arkansas weather is usually better than Iowa, but this AM it is 28. Ooh, yeah, that's chilly enough. Anything below, 32 and I'm a baby. So Nope says we got out of DSM about 3 years ago and went to southern Iowa. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it was a little kooky there. I know that just when we go to Iowa City, during the whole craziness. We were in the derecho that went through. Well, you would have had the derecho, I'm sure, in 2020. I think it was August 2020. Actually, I had my mom up at a doctor's appointment. We were at a restaurant. That was something to go through. Um, it's amazing what your vehicles can drive over. I drove over trees. And of course, it was a Ford Escape, but it wasn't four-wheel drive, but I made it four-wheel drive because I was getting my butt and her butt out of there. And I drove over like your signal lights, several of those poles that went down. I went right over those. And I didn't have any damage. I did look on my car when I got home, or my vehicle. I was surprised. I was like, I'm surprised some of the molding at the bottom, because they sit a little higher than like a car, but not much. But yeah, I had to get out of there. I was not hanging around for that. That was not that was not fun whatsoever. Southern Iowa. My hometown is Ankeny. Okay. Oh, Mason City. Karen, that's funny you say that. So I used to work at Armor Dial in Fort Madison, which was actually closer. It was in between Fort Madison and Keokuk. And we had a ton of people that originally came from Mason City because they must have closed down a dial factory there. Um, and they maybe made soaps at theirs. I'm not positive, but we did the canned meats and like stews and chilies and stuff like that. Oh, the Vienna sausage. Oh, when I hear somebody say Vienna sausage or potted meat, oh, it just makes me want to. I would eat paper, and I would probably eat a vegetable before I would do that again. But a lot of people were from that Mason City. I mean, a lot that had come down. The Gendras, gosh, I'm trying to think. Old man Gendra, he was awesome. He was the old German boy, and Bob Gendra was his name. He, I mean, he could work 12-hour shifts, go in to the men's locker room, lay down on like one of the benches for like an hour. He'd eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and drink a cup of coffee, and he'd do it again. I mean, it was nuts. And he was 70 when he was doing that. And I was like, man, I want to be like that. Yeah. So, yes, that storm was nuts. And then to make things even nicer, this is the luck that sometimes I have, is in 2023. Yes. So, June 29th of 2023, right here, we got hit by the second derecho I've ever heard of. And it was bad. It was bad. I was at a patient's house and had to carry him down his basement steps because he had Parkinson's, and I was like, "Nope, we are not dying today." Which he had a really nice brick house. He didn't have any damage to his house. He just lost every single tree. He's an arborist, and he had purposely bought this property and built this big brick house on it because of the age of some of these trees that were over 200 years old. I mean, they were just here forever. Um, and they were just ripped up or completely had all the bark stripped off of it, almost like a tornado when you see that, um, and just gone. And one was out in the middle of the highway. So, like when I tried to leave, there was a ginormous oak tree with the entire root system sitting on that highway. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't getting around that one. So we just had to wait a couple, I think 2.5 hours, and the snow plows came and just pushed all the debris off of the road so that they could have one lane open to get people out. So yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, growing up in Des Moines, I'll bet that was interesting. I have family that moved to Arkansas, Cali, Florida, and Alaska. Ooh, I don't know how many of you guys watch like Bill Knott's videos. And Alaska is beautiful. But I cannot live in that cold, like as cold as it gets. And I know they get some nice weather, but they get some really crazy cold weather, and I'm just like, mm-mm. And his little cat Daisy, I'm like, that cat is tough, man. It goes out in those like, I mean, it was below zero, major below zero, like 30 below. And he was like, I'm just wearing this jacket because I can't find my winter coat. And I'm like, nope, not for me. See, so Karen says she loves it in Arkansas. Yeah. Well, and Iowa's in a little better shape with the way they do things than Illinois. Missouri is also better. Pretty much, there's only a few places that people tell me are worse than here. Um, there's about 8 of them, and most of them are real teeny tiny, and they're out east. Um, but still, I feel bad for people that are stuck there. I can't get my husband out of here, but I told him that about one more draconian thing that our governor does, and I'm going to move to a different state, and he can just come visit for like conjugal visits because I'm not going to stay. I'm up to that. I'm not taking any more. So, and he knows me. Like when I hit my limit, that's it. So, Alaska does not play. Yeah, yeah, I'm not into that. So I'm going to run and check the lye water really quickly outside. So I do use like this type of a thermometer. So I'm going to go check it and see if it's close to 100. It should be. So really, this recipe doesn't take much time. So I will be right back. Let me go check that. Try not to get my hair blown off. Perfect. So it is just, that's how cold it is outside. It is just registering. It's at 90 degrees. So I'll set that there because I have to wash it. My husband uses that thermometer sometimes for his food. And I don't want to have him have lye mixed with his food. That would not be nice. I do like to pick on my husband a lot, but I don't want to do that. That wouldn't be friendly. I'm going to turn this down like this a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Maybe like that. Okay. So this is something I do that it doesn't say you have to, but I do it is I need to add the lavender. And as I said, I add as much as I want to. I know it says 1.5 ounces, but let's see. I'm going to stir it just a little so I can gauge what the smell, because I want it to be a really good smelling bar. It smells pretty close, but I'm going to add some more. So, like I said, you can just do it to your own, like what you want. Um, the last ones that I made were bergamot, which is like kind of like citrus, and it's really nice. It's really nice. So I just mix that in. Try not to get grease everywhere. But then I do the immersion blender. So this is going to get loud, okay? And then what I do is I kind of, with the immersion blender running, I will kind of mix that in. You'll see the color changes pretty quickly. So that's about what? Maybe 20 minutes worth of time. It's not bad. And this is going to make quite a few, but we'll see how many it makes. So, like I said, you just kind of mix it until it's kind of like the pudding back in the day when you made pudding. And maybe you still make pudding. I don't know. So, about the consistency of what the pudding would be when you were, let's say, you were going to pour it into cups or something, that is kind of about what you want. And then I'll show you what else I do. And you don't have to do this, but I just think it's easier for me to pour if I put it in here. And then I try to utilize all of it. Plus, my husband doesn't want this going down the sink if we can help it because it clogs up things. He tried blaming me for like a month and a half ago, right before the election. We had we were having to do things the old fashioned way. So we were definitely like homesteaders. We were heating water up on the stove and all kinds of stuff. It ended up that we had a broken pipe that had been a broken pipe from before we bought the house, and all they did was put like cement around it and then put dirt up against it. So we didn't know that. Yeah, the things that people do sometimes. So I will show you this here in just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and start pouring. If you wait too long, it does start to set up, and then it is harder to get it out of this. Yeah, these are going to be nice. And it smells really good in the kitchen. And like I said, you can do any scent or you can do no scent. I have a whole bag of no scent shampoo bars that I made, oh, probably 2, 3 weeks ago. And I have quite a few of those. Um, I had a lady who bought like 20 of them, but I have quite a few more. Okay, so it looks like we are going to make a solid 13, which is actually my lucky number. So like that last Friday, that was the 13th. That's always my lucky day. That's the day I took all of my nursing exams for the state. When I did my LPN, when I did my RN, both of them happened. The one was that day, and I purposely picked it because it was the only day. Otherwise, I was going to have to wait like 5 months to get in. And I was like, no way. What if I forget everything I was taught? Because, that's what they tell you will happen, but it doesn't. So I will show you real quick. So you can see those. Look at my husband's. You see his GIF. He doesn't learn. Oh, well. And then he has the tooth removed and he's like, well, what can I do? And I'm like, seriously, seriously, I'm not telling you. I'm like, you've been living with me for uh, 13, almost 14 years. Come on, come on. So, anyway, let's see. Yeah, those smell really good. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I like that. Let's see. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this recipe, or are there any recipes of anything you want to see done? Most of the products that I have on my website, I already have a video on, but not all. Like I said, I tried to run through and see what I could find. I could not find one where I'd done this before. So anyway, if there is anything like that, you can always put it in the comments, and then I do go back through there and look at stuff. So yeah. Mhm. Yeah, Karen, I know you definitely can understand when it comes to hubby. Um, yes, which I appreciate. Yeah. I don't mind people asking questions and stuff like that. Um, I did have somebody reach out that wanted I do clients on my website. So on russellbrands.com, I do have a tag there where I do like 15-minute and hour consultations with people. I always give like at least a half an hour prior or after or more. Sometimes it turns into an hour and a half or 2 hours, and go over stuff. So I do that. And that's pretty, actually, if it wasn't for the money coming through the internet, I don't trust that. I could do that and these products and be fine. I just don't trust that system. Um, so I'm not ever going to rely 100% of my making money or being able to survive through internet sources, I guess. So I'm not into CBD, CD, whatever that's called, digital currency ever. So anyway, so I think I'm going to finish up, clean this up a little bit, get that stuff washed up. And you saw it really wasn't that scary with the lye. You take it outside, get make sure you are not where the wind's going to blow that in because it does almost boil, and that's why you want to use a Pyrex thing. But you don't want that smoke that comes off of it. I mean, it's not going to kill you if you get a good inhalation of it, but it's pretty caustic. You don't want to do it a lot. I've done it a few times, and I'm like, oh, so you want to be careful with that. You want to be careful with your eyes, and you don't want to get a lot of it on the skin. When I wash it, I use the sprayer first and get the majority of it out of those two items, and then I put it in soapy water. So that's what I do. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, you learned something from this, a little something. Um, I was just looking. I forgot. I got to figure out how to do that. I just saw an A&W root beer mug that my husband has, and I'm like, I could make root beer candles. I've got to figure it out. I know you mix clove and something else for that scent, but I've got to figure that out. Hmm. Anyway, so I have some stuff to look up today, right? So I'm going to go do that. So I appreciate all of you guys watching. And as I always say, meet, heat, eat, and repeat.